explaining just the worker part, explaining just the goodness, passion, ignorance of the worker without understanding the context in which Krishna is explaining that might not give a good amount of information to the listener. So basically, to set the context right for this presentation, we need to understand what is the basis of this. So in 18.19, Krishna says that according to the three modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge: action and performer of the action, who is the worker. And now hear them from me. So from a knowledge perspective, the goodness is that knowledge which looks at the spiritual nature in all living entities, and it means the undivided and unified spiritual nature, which is the Paramatma in all living entities, even though they are divided into innumerable forms. But knowledge in passion is that knowledge that sees everyone as different living entities, and where there is nothing unifying them in a spiritual realm. And knowledge in the mode of ignorance is all that has to do with attachment to work, and in knowledge in complete ignorance or darkness. And then with knowledge, the person does action. And the action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, love, or hatred is in the mode of goodness. And the action that is performed with great effort to satisfy only one's senses and desires is in the mode of passion. And action which is completely again in darkness and causing violence and distress to others is in the mode of ignorance. So given the knowledge, given the three modes of how knowledge and action can be explained with the three modes of material nature, we go into describing how we can look at the worker. Now the worker is again divided into three types by Krishna. So the type of worker, the knowledge the worker has, and the determination of the worker. So the type of worker in the mode of goodness is he or she has works without attachment to fruit or result, which basically means that they work without any false ego. They are not greedy or envious, and they do their work with great determination and enthusiasm. And since they are not attached to the fruits of work, whether they succeed or fail in that work, that doesn't cause any impact to them. But nevertheless, they work with enthusiasm and determination. So that's work in the mode of, how we identify a worker, the type of worker in the mode of goodness. And the kind of worker in the mode of passion, if we look around, if we see anyone attached to the fruit of work, greedy and envious, moved by joy or sorrow, and want to be as much materially comfortable as possible. So these people can be grouped under the classification of mode of passion. And then we have worker under the mode of ignorance, which is they do completely opposite thing with respect to what they are supposed to do, or they work against scriptural injunction. Mode of goodness, they work within scriptural injunction. Mode of ignorance, they work totally outside scriptural injunctions, which means that they become very materialistic. They cheat and insult others and do almost anything to get their way forward, and to win. They then work according to the modes of, work according to the modes of nature, and they are driven by the modes of nature, and they are always lazy, procrastinating, and always in illusion. So these are the three characteristics in terms of goodness, passion, and ignorance for the worker. And now for the worker, so everyone has intelligence and determination. So with great intelligence comes great determination. So when we break up intelligence in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, we know that we come to know that when the intelligence is in the mode of goodness, that intelligence helps the person know what is good and what is bad, what to do and what not to do, what to fear and what not to be feared, and what's binding and what's liberating. And when the intelligence is in the mode of passion, the intelligence uh, drives the person to be completely opposite of the mode of goodness. That means the person is always.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah. I
Yes,
thought
Rosie?
next page has the details of intelligence.
No, then the next page is determination.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, so the intelligence in the mode of goodness is like what we said, what to do and what not to do, knows what to fear and what not to fear, and things like that. And for intelligence in the mode of passion, it is complete opposite of the mode of goodness and cannot understand what is religious and irreligious. This person is confused, but when it comes to mode of ignorance, this person is always confused. The intelligence is always confused. And the intelligence always guides the person in the wrong direction. And the intelligence is always in the spell of ignorance and darkness. And the intelligence of such people cannot differentiate between truth and untruth. So this is how Krishna breaks up the intelligence of a person who is who the person can be in more goodness, passion, or ignorance, but this is the characteristic of how to identify the intelligence of a person that is in goodness, passion, and ignorance. And now the third aspect of a worker, which Krishna says, is the determination that person has. So one is the type of the worker. The second is the intelligence of the worker, and the third is the determination of the worker. So for a person in the mode of goodness, the determination is solid and it's unbreakable. It is controls the activities of the mind and senses, and not the other way around. So he's like complete control of his mind and senses, and does things based on scriptural injection what he has to do, basically because he has got unbreakable determination. And such people are steadfastly fixed in the supreme soul with determination. Determination in the mode of passion is always controlled by the fruitive results and sense gratification. So, so their determination is basically goes to goes wherever there is like advantage for them or sense gratification for them. So the determination is controlled by the sense gratification. If they are determined to do something, but if their senses tell them to do something else, they will waver from the determination, which means such determination is not like solid, like the mode of goodness. And likewise, these people are not steady in mind and senses. So they have wavering determination. Determination in the mode of ignorance is only dreams. And over here, dreams mean sleep and no action. So they sleep a lot, they are fearful and always lamenting, always in illusion, and always dreaming of lording over the material nature. So this we can see they have absolutely zero determination to do anything. They I mean, it's like the intelligence, they always procrastinate, or always lamenting, always means complaining, in illusion, right? So that's the determination in the mode of that's the kind of determination which is in the mode of ignorance. So that is, so basically the last three slides are the last two slides are 29 to 35, and then this is basically setting the context to the slides 4 and 5.
Yeah, thank you. Is it done?
Yes, Rosie.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just give me a couple of minutes, Prabhu. Yeah, so this is good. If you can give more, become more abstract, because if you can give some personal examples or people's examples,
Okay.
it'll become more concrete. Even though whatever little people learn, they can take away something that, oh, this is something I can speak to myself. But yeah, but otherwise, presentation is good overall.
Sure.
Yeah, going to cover next one.
I can go next. So, Prabhu, so I will just do the last week topic, Prabhu, and then next week I'll cover this week and next week topic.
Yeah, next week we won't have, but we'll do
Okay.
the week after.
Okay. Whenever we do, I'll do the two topics. Just catch up with
Yeah.
this one. So let me share my screen. So,
Prabhu, did you tell the time limits, Prabhu, to everyone?
Yeah, 12
Okay.
minutes to present and 3 to 5 minutes for feedback.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
sorry, Prabhu, how much, Prabhu? I didn't hear it.
12 minutes.
12 minutes? Okay. Okay. I think that should be enough for me.
Hmm.
So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the different types of happiness, what the Lord outlines here. So that's verse 36 to 42 in the chapter 18. So the overall theme in this is, we'll talk about the types of happiness, and even this, there is no exception, even including demigods have actually go through this. And also there's varnas that are differentiated by the qualities of, of the three modes of nature, and the material nature. So the three types actually the types of happiness are conditioned by the experiences, the conditioned soul's experience or enjoys, right? So the happiness and mode of goodness is like, bitter in the beginning, but nectar at the end. That's how the Lord is actually outlining it. And the happiness and mode of passion, people enjoy it in the beginning, but then eventually they suffer. It ends up like a poison at the end. But it's an illusion where they feel that they're like enjoying, but then eventually it ends up in that's a difficult situation. And then mode of happiness and mode of ignorance, it's always misery from the beginning to end. It's like a poison. And but nobody is exempted, including the demigods have to go through these three modes of material nature and happiness through these three modes. And the last point the Lord outlines here is, Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by their qualities in accordance with the three modes. They are situated in mode of goodness, they are in Brahmanas, and so on, right? So that's basically the overall theme of this presentation. So now let us look in depth. So in the first verse, which is the 36, the Lord says, Shukatam te itinam trivitam sruno me parthasabar abhyasat ramate yatar dukhanantam cha nigachate. O best of Bharatas, now please hear from me about three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned souls enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to an end of all distress. So Trividam Sukham means the three kinds of happiness. And also the more important point is, the conditioned soul choose the truth, right? So because they always think, oh, if I have this one thing, I will be happy. And if I have this, a Tesla car, I will be happy. If I have a big house, I will be happy. If I have this job, I'll be happy. But no matter what, we keep trying. Tesla car doesn't give happiness. At some point, it gives misery. So if it runs out of charge, you have to now figure out where to go charge the car. So it's not really, happiness that is sustainable or anything. Material happiness is always short-lived, and we keep thinking, the conditioned souls think that we can be happy by having those things, but it is short-lived. And the solution is, sometimes over this course of enjoyment, we start thinking and realizing, okay, no matter what I have, I'm not happy. So which means there is some other thing I should do to be eternally happy. And that can be achieved by, associating with a great soul, who's an acharya, or who's a great soul who is self-realized, or who is an advanced in Krishna consciousness. Such souls, by associating with them, we sort of overcome this condition. And the next verse, yat agre visham yiva parinam mrito papam tatsukam satvikam praktam atma buddhi prasadajam. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end it is like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be in the happiness, to be happiness in the mode of goodness, right? So happiness, as I said, it is in the beginning it is like poison, but it is in the end it's like nectar. Why is it like a poison in the beginning? Because one has to follow certain regulative principles, right? So they have to give up eating meat or intoxication or things like that, which one person is addicted to it. It is hard. If go tell an alcoholic to give up something, they get frustrated saying, oh, I'm losing my enjoyment. So such things may look like a bitter, but then once they give up such bad things and they control the mind and concentrate and concentrate the mind on self, at that time, they initially, even if it is bitter, eventually they become successful in following the regulative principles, and they become more transcendental, right? So then there is an internal peace. So they start to begin to drink the nectar and enjoy the life, right? Once the people who are situated in mode of goodness are always deemed to be happy, even if the external conditions are not conducive or not happy situation, they are still situated in the mode of goodness, so they are happy. So that is the definition the Lord is giving for somebody who is in the mode of goodness. And so Vishendriya samyoga tat yat agre mrito pamam parinam visham iva tatsukam rajasam smritam. So this one, the happiness that is derived from contact of senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar in the first but poison at the end, is said to be in the nature of passion. Because when we start going through the sense enjoyment, automatically, obviously, it is like a nectar, but eventually it ends up in poison. Prabhupada gives a good example here. Why is it like a nectar in the beginning? Because an young man or woman comes together, that's driven by the senses. They touch each other, they enjoy each other. It's really like like a nectar. So they're happy and they're enjoying each other because it's pleasing the senses. But then over a period of time, then they start arguing because now that the initial enjoyment, the surcharged environment goes away, right? Then there is no more excitement anymore. So with associating with that person, then it becomes like a poison. then they argue with each other, fight with each other, and then it eventually could lead to divorce or lamentation and sorrow and all that. So that's basically the situation here, right? So, so that's the difference from mode of goodness to mode of passion. And maybe I'll just skip reading the verses. I'll just talk about this in this case. So, so it is mode of happiness. Ignorance is the worst, right? So from the beginning to the end, it is like a poison. Because why is it like a poison? Because being lazy and delusional or drinking alcohol, you're just grumpy all the time, right? So if you're intoxication, drinking alcohol is not a pleasant experience. You still, like, it tastes like, Maharaj says, it's like a horse urine or a donkey's urine or something like that. Maharaj gives gross example. So drinking that is not a pleasant experience. And then after you're drunk, again, you're having headache and the hangover and all that. Even that is not a pleasant experience. At the end also, it's like a poison, right? So that is where the people who are in mode of ignorance consider, even though they consider it like an happiness, they're suffering from the beginning till the end, right? So that is not a good situation for them as well. So also this does not help, for self-realization, because you're not ever thinking about God. You're thinking about enjoying, but you're not enjoying. You're suffering all the time, right? So that's the people who are in mode of ignorance. So the practical application, one should be, always try to be in the mode of goodness. Because even though initially it is a little bit of a challenge, or you're not in a happy state, because it is like, controlling senses and all that is hard. But eventually, if one has faith in it and follows the process, they become happy. So one should try to be in the mode of goodness. And having a clear understanding, that it is very important, because even if you are a demigod, or no matter in all three planetary systems, everybody has this type of different situations where you have to situate yourself in mode of goodness. Otherwise, you will degrade over a period of time. If you go into mode of happiness, passion, or ignorance, one will start degrading. And Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are basically distinguished or differentiated by their qualities, right? And not by birth. Even Prabhupada explains in many cases, even the Lord explains that, one is not considered as a Brahmana, even though if he is born in a Brahmana family. One should have the qualities to be a Brahmana, not by birth. Same goes with Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and so on. They have to have the qualities of the Brahmana to be a Brahmana. They're not defined by birth, right? So that is why we should always situate ourselves in the Brahmanical qualities, which are, being peaceful, self-control, and we follow austerity and keep our heart pure, and tolerate as well, right? We have to tolerate others, learn to tolerate, so that we can continue to be in a peaceful state. If we cannot tolerate others, then we cannot be peaceful as well. So each one of these qualities are linked with each other, and we have to be honest and develop knowledge about the Lord, and so that gives us the wisdom, and we follow the right religion. So that is basically, these are the qualities of a Brahmana, who Brahmanical qualities, which are critical to become self-realized, right? So without these qualities, one cannot make progress for self-realization. And that's what the Lord actually outlines here. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I think this is very well covered. Yeah,
Thank
with
you, Prabhu.
practical applications and the overall flow is also very good.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you can add how devotion service is transcendental, because they know we all practice, bhakti, and how
Right.
chanting is transcendental, things like that. What we do relate to what these activities are. That way they gain some more practical understanding.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next. NOI. Deviradhika Mataji.
Prabhu, that I'll cover next week. So Mataji, you can go.
Yeah, NOI 2. Deviradhika.
Mataji, you are on mute.
Can we go?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. You can see my PPT also.
Hmm.
Okay. Today we're going to, I'm going to present NOI verse 2, which basically discusses about 6 activities that spoil the devotional service. I would like to give, all the glories to His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj and His Sri Radhesham Prabhu, from whom I have taken points from their classes and their presentation. Next, okay, the verse goes like this: Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha laulyamcha shadbir bhakti vinashriti. So this verse talks about how one's devotional service is spoiled when we become too entangled in these following 6 activities. I'm not going to go into detail of 6 right now, but before that, we need to understand why are these 6, activities to be forbidden. I would like to touch base on that first. Basically, in Padma Purana, let me go back here. From Padma Purana, from Padma Purana, there is a verse which says Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavyo Najarsuchit Sarve Viti Nishedasyor Etayor Eva Kinkara. Before we go into that verse, the real verse that I'm going to explain today, wanted to remind about the topmost do's and don'ts that is mentioned in the scriptures. So one rule, when we say rule, basically the explanation here is Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu, and Krishna should always be remembered, and he should not be forgotten at any point of time. And all the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the scriptures are the servants of peace. So the first rule is always remember Krishna, and the nished or the prohibition is never forget Krishna. So if at all, after reading all the scriptures, if we can do these 2 things, our life can be considered as successful. All that we do in terms of devotional service or in any activity should be to honor these 2. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So Srila Rupa Goswami and other acharyas have distilled all the scriptures and have picked the most required do's and don'ts from all the scriptures and given to us. So that's what is this verse about, NOI 2, which talks about the nished, which is the prohibitions, the things that we have to avoid. So I'm just bringing it because how important is this verse? Once we understand that, then we will be able to understand these 6 things easily, and we'll be able to practically follow that. Before that, I also would like to give an example so that we can understand in day-to-day life. The NOI and is all scriptural do's and don'ts. But in a day-to-day life, say for example, if we fall sick, if we go to the doctor will say 2 things at least. The do's that we have to do, for example, take your tablets, eat healthy and drink water and so on. And also they'll say about the don'ts, which talks about do not drink alcohol, do not smoke when you're unwell and when you're in the recovery path, kind of things that they will say. And we cannot say to the doctor that, okay, doctor, I will follow however I like. Whenever I feel like following, I will follow. Then I will get well. So if we say that, I don't think we will get well anytime. And so we have to follow those rules, whatever the doctor says, both positive and the negative ones. Only then we will get better. And another thing is that is important is not just by following only the do's or only the don'ts will not make us feel better. We have to follow both. For example, by not just drinking and skipping medicine, definitely we will not get well. But if we drink and then if we skip medicine, also we will not get well. If we drink and take medicine, also we will not get well, because one or the other is going wrong here. Only if we don't drink and if we take medicine, this is just one example of that, right? Only if we do both the things, then only we will get well. So similarly is where is this, Nishedas that I'm talking about, the NOI verse 3 and other verses that will come, which are do's. Only if we avoid and do both Vidhi and Nisheda, then only we will be spiritually progressing. So this is the context of the importance of this verse, and we will go one by one to the verse. First is Atyahara. Atyahara means basically overeating or over endeavoring in whatever we do. Yeah. Basically, we should not be doing a lot of endeavor only for sake of our personal gratification. We should be doing it only to keep our body and soul in intact together. Nothing more than that. Yeah. Maybe I will say that one example that Srila Prabhupada gives is do not collect more than what we need. So what he says is if there is a bag of grain in the road, what happens is if it is a bird, it will just pick whatever is required for it. It will take a couple of grains and it will run, it will fly away, maybe it will go give it to its baby and so on. But at the same time, if a man sees a bag of grain in the road, what he'll do is he'll not pick what he wants. He will just pick the whole bag and go. That's because we have the tendency to hoard or collect more than what we need, which is not advisable. So if this principle of collecting only what we need is followed, then there won't be any difficulty in maintaining our body and soul together. Basically, when we tend to hold more or collect more than what we require, it gradually increases the tendency to increase our lust and greed. That's what increases. So this is first nishad or prohibition, which is atyahara, overeating, that they recommend us not to or to avoid basically. The solution is we'll have to eat only what is required for our body and only collect what is required for our living. And very simple way to say is simple living and high thinking. That's what is the first one about. The second one is about prayasa. Prayasa is over endeavoring. Over endeavoring, when we say some people want to be ahead of the rat race and they want to achieve a lot and they spend a lot of their time and effort for it. But as per Srila Prabhupada, one needs only a cow and a little bit of land to live happily and in a very sustainable way. So that's what Prabhupada says. And man has been given this higher intelligence for what? To understand about God, to develop love for God and make him the ultimate goal of life. But what happens is we don't, instead of using that higher intelligence for God realization, we are using it for our sense gratification. So because of that, what happens to what you call to satisfy our senses, there are more and more factories that are coming up. There are more slaughterhouses, liquor shops, and all that are coming up, only to satisfy our senses, which is not advised. And because man is so busy in all of this, prayasa, he's not having time or making time to for self-realization, and he's saying, I don't have time for God. So he's busy in enjoying his liquor or other sense gratification, and he's not taking time to spend for the Lord. So prayasa is one thing we have to reduce. This is what is said in this verse. And the third one is Prajalpa. Prajalpa is nothing but, when people meet, they generally do small talks like gossips about the college, colleagues, their friends, relatives, and so on. Or sometimes they also discuss about serials, movies, and stuff like that. Some people, even when they are alone, they don't, they will do idle work like reading newspaper, watching news all the time, watching politics and sports updates, and so on. These activities are actually waste of time, and it is as good as how a toad croaks and calls the snake to come and catch it. We are inviting our own downfall, though we have been gifted with this precious human body. We are not using it for devotional service. If we are doing only prajalpa and wasting our time. So the solution for this is we should be using the time only to know and serve the Lord. So we can think about whenever we do prajalpa, we can think about the croak and the toad and the snake, which will help us remember to spend the time for the Lord. Next, so this is the third, what do you call that? Nisheda. And the fourth is Niyama Agraha, Niyama Agraha and Niyama Agraha. There are two things. Niyama means rules and regulations. Agraha means too much attachment to it. And Agraha means too much neglect to it. Sometimes, for material benefits, people do puja to get a promotion, doing some atonement to get a good life partner, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there are some people who do not even follow any scriptures. In the other side of the spectrum, they do not do any follow scriptural injunctions, but they live on their own whims and fancies. Both the extremes are not good. Actually, we should follow rules and regulations only for the advancements in Krishna consciousness. Example like following Ekadashi, attending Mangalarti, and so on, which are the rules that are given to us, which are good for our spiritual advancement. So the best advice as per Srila Prabhupada is to follow the 4 regulative principles here to advance in Krishna consciousness along with our chanting, hearing, and so on. So the fourth nishad is the rules and regulations where we are getting too attached or neglecting it is something that he is asking us to avoid. The next fifth one is Jana Sangha. Jana Sangha here talks about, stands for the association with materialists. It is advised to avoid association of materialists or even Mayavadis. The reason to avoid is the characteristics of the habit of such person will rub on us eventually. Some current day examples that we can think of is stock traders will only spend more time with other traders, or they'll be with the computers, in front of their machines and so on. Celebrities will spend more time with the A-list people. They always keep themselves in the front line so that they can excel in their own area of interest. So if we hang out with bad association, we will also end up in a bad state. So if we have to progress in bhakti, then we have to associate with devotees, and they can only keep us in devotional service and help us progress in devotional service. So Jana Sangha is the association worldly minded people that we have to avoid as far as bhakti is concerned. Next, the sixth one, the last one is Laulyam. Laulyam means ardent longing or greed. Some people do mystic yoga, or even they want to merge into Brahman, or even they desire for, unimaginable material prosperity and so on. And they do, or they go to any extent to make such desires possible. They do puja, yoga, and etc. to, to quench their thirst of greed, but which doesn't have any end. So this should not be done. Instead, one should be satisfied with whatever is achieved by one's previous destiny, and be happy with whatever they have. So that's what is Laulyam. So these are the 6 nisheds that is being given to us in this verse. We quickly touch base on how we will suffer if we do not avoid these 6 nisheds. Like, we lose our human life's essence, which is simple living and high thinking. We also take repeated birth and death, repeated birth, death, old age, and disease if we don't follow devotional service, and if we do all of those 6 nisheds, we have to take birth again and again. And we have no faith in the plan of God, and instead we are depending more on our prayasa or our efforts, which is not good, which should be avoided. When we do all of this, we are always in an anxious mode, and because we are dependent on our own abilities, and we don't have our spiritual development. So this is how we suffer. And how do we benefit? If we, by avoiding these 6 unfavorable things, we can actually have a very, what do you call that? We can avoid enmity, and we can have a very social, economical balance in the society, and we will have a very peaceful life. So we can have a spiritual community by not following all that and only following devotional service. So KC movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. And the basic principle for such a spiritual society is stated in the first mantra of Ishopanishad, which talks about like everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this is the mantra that we have to follow. So to summarize, these are the 6 initiates that we talked about. One is atyahara, overeating. When that happens, then the problem is our lust, greed, and anger increases. The solution is to have a simple living and high thinking. Prayasa for over-endeavoring. Because of over-endeavoring, we will not have time for God. So instead, we have to consciously make time for God and have devotee association, and do God realization, and have love, develop the love for God. Prajalpa, if we do more Prajalpa, we will waste a lot of time, which can instead be used in the service of Krishna. So we should avoid Prajalpa also. Niyama, the rules and regulations are sometimes used to go to heaven and other things, which is not the right thing to do. Instead, we should be following the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, no gambling, intoxication, no illicit relationship. Then only following the rules and regulations really makes sense. As far as bad association, which is Janasanga and Laulyam is concerned, the more we have this, our bhakti will go down. So what Narottam Das Thakur is recommending is to have only devotee association, like how these devotees are blessed to have Srila Prabhupada's association. Similarly, we should take advantage of devotee association, and we should increase our bhakti. And to reduce the laulyam, which is our greed, we have to be satisfied with what we have, and do more and more Krishna conscious activities. So these are the 6 initiates that are mentioned in NOYP. I'll stop here. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mataji. This table is very, very good, because very precisely presenting the summary of all these points. One thing that, most important is applying this to oneself and seeing where am I, and what we can do to get out of it, or keep it steady going, right? That is one thing we should call out. But otherwise, it's very good, very good flow and practical lessons. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, next. Anandaram Prabhu said you will do next week, right? Prabhu?
Means I did Bhagavad Gita today, Prabhu. So NOA I'll do next week. Next week or the next class. I'll do two. I mean, I'm behind by 1 week, so I'll do 2 presentations next time, Prabhu.
Okay. So Sujata Radhika.
I can do it one after the other.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what we can do next week, because
Sure.
Sakhipriya Mataji.
Next week or week after next, whichever.
The week after next week. So we have right now 4 pending. Sakhipriya Mataji, Sridhar Gopal Prabhu, Anandaram Prabhu, you and Shyamakul Prabhu, 4 of you. Even NOI itself. So let's see what we can cover. This Sujata Radhika Mataji and Champaka Mataji will cover now. Remaining 5 and 6 and 7. Okay, let's start.
Okay. Hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Nectar of Instruction, verse 6. So, this verse primarily talks about how we should not judge a pure devotee by the externals. When we say externals, it is the external we see is the body. So, we again, Bhagavad Gita, first instruction, which Srila Prabhupada keeps repeating is, you are not the body, you are the soul. And especially for a pure devotee, if we judge them based on their, it could be which means that we are looking at them with an ordinary vision and from a materialistic point of view. So this person is from a low family, they have this kind of bad complexion, deformed body, deceased body, infirm body. So but we cannot, one is not supposed to judge a pure devotee from a materialistic vision and an ordinary vision. The body of a pure devotee, it cannot be polluted. The example given is, it's exactly like the waters of Ganges. Sometimes we see during rainy season, it's full of foam, bubbles and mud, but the Ganges itself is spiritual and it cannot be polluted by the externals. I think similar thing we can say about Vrindavan and or Holy Dham. Holy Dham is pure, but if we see from materialistic point of view, we can see all these externals and see it from an external point and not from the spiritual side. So people who are advanced in spiritual understanding will still bathe in Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So here are listed some of the pure, what it means. Previous slide we talked about the purity, the pure devotee, how we should see a pure devotee. So when we say pure devotee, so it's based on the pure devotional service which they do. So basically, what is pure devotional service? It is the activity of the soul, and it frees us from the material motive. And by following the pure devotional service, our consciousness changes. And only aim of doing this is to serve Krishna. And when we say to serve Krishna without having any material consideration, so there is no mental speculation, there's no fruitive work. So all the activities are transcendental. And also, so we are supposed to engage in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service. When someone is engaging in this unalloyed and uncontaminated devotional service, he is already in the liberated state. So Krishna's devotees are not subject to any material condition, even though their body may appear materially contaminated. So unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. So when we can judge ourselves where we are based on how we see others. If we are able to see devotees with their imperfection, which means that we are imperfect still. So I really like the last point that unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. So this is all about the pure devotional service. So there are 3 types of devotees. So Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttamadhikari. So here Kanishta is someone who is not able to distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee. So that person is only concerned about worshipping deity in the temple. So Madhyama Adhikari can distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee, as well as between the devotees of the Lord. Thus, he treats, sorry, I got a call, got distracted. So he can distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee, as well as between the devotee and the Lord. So he treats everybody differently based on, okay, this is Lord, this is a devotee, this is a non-devotee. But Uttama Adhikari, his heart is completely clean and he has attained the state of self-realization, and there is no blaspheming of others. So the next one is the unadulterated devotional service. So what does it mean by unadulterated devotional service? So the example given here is like how the Ganges flows naturally towards the ocean. The unadulterated devotional service means it is uninterrupted in any material condition and it automatically flows towards the Supreme Lord. And it is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. So basically the Lord is uncontaminated, therefore he is attractive to the pure devotee. So, and I think since the Lord is not influenced by any mode of nature, naturally the pure devotee is attracted to the Lord. So since the pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage, so there is an affinity between the pure devotee and the Lord, and it is natural, and it is compared to the Ganges flowing towards the sea. So there is no stopping between the devotee and the Lord, because they both are in the same platform. So the flow of Ganges, it cannot be stopped in any condition. When we see water flowing, the river flowing, whatever obstacle we keep, it crosses the obstacle and moves on. So like that, a pure devotee's attraction towards the name, form, pastimes, it cannot be stopped by any material condition. So again, without reason, there is no reason. Uh, Devotional service is not performed for a reason, for any benefit, for any material or spiritual benefit. The only reason is the love for the Lord. And there is no stopping. Every minute, every second, he engages in some sort of devotional service, because it is natural. It's not artificial when someone is in that stage, because the interest of the devotee and the interest of the Lord are on the same level. And when they are in the same level, the reason the interest of a devotee is same as the interest of the Lord is the devotee does not have any selfish ulterior motive. There is no I consciousness for the devotee who is in that platform. His only desire is to, whatever is the desires of the Lord, that is my desire as well. And the only goal for the devotee is to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Lord. And I think the primary content of this verse is about not judging a devotee based on the externals. And there is an internal and there is an external. We cannot measure someone's spiritual progress by their externals. Internally, they might be very elevated, but when we judge someone based on the externals, that's a wrong judgment. And so the devotional service can be performed in liberated condition, irrespective of the bodily features, even though it can be materially contaminated. So one should not criticize the bodily defect of a pure devotee. And even if there are any bodily defects, that should be overlooked. So even if a devotee sometimes seem to engage in abominable activities, he should still be considered a sadhu, because his actual identity is that of a one engaged in loving service to the Lord. And he should not be considered as an ordinary human being. I think one of the examples I read was Brahma, when he had 8 sons and 1 daughter. And All those 8 sons are the demigods. And when he was looking lustily at the daughter, the other 8 sons judged him. And because they judged him, they were cursed and to be born as the first 8 children of Devaki. And that is why they were killed by Kamsa. So again, by just looking at the externals of someone, we cannot judge their internals. And even that need not doesn't have to be judged. I think that is the message from this one. And this is all about some of the, I'm not sure about the time, some of the more on devotional service. I will not go into all the details. Like we can go to the, I think one of the primary thing which is mentioned in this verse is not about somebody is born in this Goswami family, Brahmana family, because there are people who are born in those lineages, automatically they don't get the qualification. But Prabhupada was talking about he giving titles, Goswami titles to the American sannyasis, and he being criticized for that. So in that aspect, Prabhupada was mentioning Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. They converted to Muslim, and then when they took shelter of Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu gave them title of Goswami. So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving them the title of Goswami for people who switch to different to Muslims. So it is not about the family lineage or heredity, it is about their qualification. So Goswami is someone who is the controller of senses. So that's why Prabhupada is saying it doesn't matter, they are born in American, they are born in different countries and they have controlled their senses. That's why those title is given. And those are Paramahamsas who are free from jealousy. So we shouldn't look at the bodily defects. And one of the other things which Mahaprabhu also mentions is when we look at the offense of others, it is like Hati Mata. It is a mad elephant offense. So whatever bhakti, like a creeper which has grown in our heart, it's like an elephant going and ripping all that apart. So that is the offense, the Vaishnava Prad. So if a devotee commits an offense at the feet of Vaishnava, that creeper of devotional service in this material world is compared to the mad elephant which uproots the creeper and breaks it. So in this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. So how do we have different relationships? So every devotee should be willing to take instruction from a senior devotee, and every devotee should be willing to give instructions to a junior devotee. One should not see things internally, but should see the externally, but should see the internals. If one thinks devotional service can be performed if we have certain material qualification, then we will only see the externals of a devotee. So there is no material qualification needed. So like when we are comparing devotees on a material platform, then we are trying to bring them to our level to see the advanced devotee, because we don't know how to see the advanced devotee. So in conclusion, this is a important verse about how we cannot judge someone based on their externals, because their internals might be different, and how a pure devotee should not be judged based on which country they are from, how they look, whether they're tall or short. That is all not the qualification. And yeah, and I think I heard Chaitanya Charan Prabhu somewhere saying that Prabhupada, when he came in 60s, his grammar was not so good. People could not understand. But if somebody is judging hymns, externals, but then Prabhupada is a pure devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Mataji. This is good. You have more conclusions or
No, Prabhu. That's the conclusion.
that's a nominal conclusion? Just you
No
wanted to say
conclusion.
something, but you didn't add.
No, I thought I will speak the conclusion. So I didn't put the slide.
Okay. Yeah, this is good overall. The flow is all good. So some points we can add here is about, for example, when we talk about aparad, people immediately think what they know, what is sin, right? So we should compare what is a sin versus what is aparad. Aparad is far more negative than a sin, right? Sin is a incorrect activity. Aparad is offense to a devotee. There's a big difference and it has far more implications. Always when we speak some point of knowledge, people come with their own understanding and knowledge. So if you compare and contrast, they'll get the point clearly. And proper relations, first thing is we should consider ourselves junior before anybody else. It doesn't matter because we don't know how much one advanced in their past life. So proper attitude for every devotee is to consider themselves to the lowest of all. And we only help those who seek help. It's not like we advertise as, I'm here for 10 years, I'm second initiated, I'm this and that, I'm president. No, it's not like that. So those are practical data points. These are direct points. So we can add those so that it becomes far more concrete. Like tomorrow I go and talk to a person, how do I relate? Should I consider myself a senior or junior or the proper attitude we should clarify. That way people understand. Go to the previous slides. Pure devotion service. Bodily features, this is a very simple example we can tell is, for example, if I'm recruiting an engineer to my team, I'll not see whether he's American or Indian or doesn't matter as long as he's able to answer the technical questions or whatever is the criteria for the role. So it's similar to that. I mean, these devotees who are advanced devotees, they all meet the criteria of a pure devotee or advanced devotee as per the descriptions of scripture, and so we accept them. All these externals don't really matter. We should just a concrete example like that will give them a lot more conviction, right? For pure devotion service, you mentioned, right? So one thing I remembered was yesterday, Prabhu was mentioning about the example of Subhadra. When Arjuna meets Subhadra, do you all remember? Anybody remember yesterday's class? So when Subhadra, when Arjuna once after, death of Abhimanyu wanted to meet Krishna, right? Krishna is his brother-in-law and Subhadra is his sister. It's a important matter. So at that time, Arjuna says, in spite of the loss of her son, Abhimanyu, Subhadra's love for you has not reduced even a bit. And the reason why he said that is, Krishna is like the Supreme Lord. Krishna is Supreme Lord, not like he is the Supreme Lord. And when Krishna is there, who knows, who controls the death of everyone? But he wouldn't save Abhimanyu's life in the war when he was being killed very indiscriminately and unjustly by a group of senior Kauravas fighters. He saw all of that, but he didn't save anybody in that position. For example, you have a brother or sister or a son, and your brother doesn't help at the time when you need your boy or child to be taken to a hospital. You would be very upset. You wouldn't even talk to them again. But here is Krishna, who is her brother. He could save anybody and everybody. But the reason is a pure devotee knows whatever happened is for my best interest. I may not know why. I may not be able to connect the dots now. So if you talk about each of these points with a good example like that, things will be so clear. aimed towards serving Krishna or happiness of Krishna.
Mm.
Serves Krishna without any material consideration. That point perfectly fits, right? So
Mm.
Uttara lost her husband, wouldn't complain. She would again go back to Krishna to protect her child in the womb.
Mm.
Shows the complete dependence on Lord, irrespective of what happens materially in their life. They know whatever happens is with the higher will of Lord, and they don't complain, right? Engaged in unalloyed, uncontaminated. You can take any example, Kunti or Subhadra or
From
you
Mahabharata.
give an example like that, each
Mm.
point just falls in place.
Ah.
Devotees understand very thoroughly. Prahlad Maharaj, take an example of him. Each of these forms. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
Okay.
just wanted to convey an example.
Yeah.
Powerful example makes lot of things lot more clear. They can perceive things much better.
Yeah. So I think pure devotee are the ones who is convinced that there is no self will. It is all Lord's will. I don't have any selfish things.
Whatever happens is for my best interest.
Mm.
Just like father, whatever he does, whether he sometimes beats the child or it's father with the child understands that whatever my father does is for my good. Life is easy, right? So it's like that.
Yes,
So pure devotee is like a child who knows his father's hurt.
yeah. Pure devotee is a child who knows what father needs and does not have their own needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the third chapter we are going to discuss in Bhagavatam, some examples of devotees who are like that.
Mm.
All the Mahabhagavatas are like that, and there are many more actually. So we'll cover that. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Wanted to add these points.
Yes.
We'll go next. Yeah. Champagut. Sherry.
Yes, Prabhuji, one second. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। In Nectar of Instruction, verse 7, Prabhuji. So this is Vachana Kriya. The verse is Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sita Pavidya Pittopatapta Rasanasya Narochi Kano Kinpadarādanu Dinam Kalusaiva Jushta Swadvi Kramat Bhavati Tatkada Moola Hantre. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these names, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So, the last 6 verses of Nectar of Instruction speaks about it addresses the lifestyle and how to control our senses and how we can benefit by taking the association of devotees. So all these process are concluding one main thing, that is the main process is chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord. So that is the final solution for all this. So we need association of devotees, but even in the association of devotees also, we are learning how to chant the holy names of the Lord and glorify the Supreme Lord. So this verse is talking about why we are not having that taste towards the holy name and the attraction towards Lord's form or pastimes and his activities. So the cause of the disease is, Prabhupada is dividing into 2 sections, that is individual and collective causes. The individual cause is ignorance, our ignorance and forgetfulness of Krishna and attraction to external energy of the Lord, and taking false shelters like the material association and inability to understand the mistakes we made. So we try to correct our mistakes by making further again the same, like different mistake, and trying to rectify that mistake. So we are not able to understand the mistakes we are doing. And the collective cause of the disease, this avidya, ignorance, is the atheistic leadership and the blind leaders who doesn't have any spiritual knowledge, and they don't know how to guide these people in general. And the miscreants who are grossly foolish. Prabhupada is quoting a verse from Bhagavad Gita 7.15, which says, those miscreants who are grossly foolish and who are lowest among mankind and whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons do not surrender to the Supreme Lord. And they personally never surrender to Krishna, and even they oppose the people who are trying us to make us know about the Supreme Lord. So we don't even agree with those people. So these are the collective causes of this disease. And the cure, Prabhupada is telling, we have to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and hear Krishna's transcendental pastimes with very great care and attention, and avoid the 10 basic offenses while chanting. So by doing so, we can be free from the blazing fire of the material existence. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam, a verse from Sishtashtakam. Prabhupada is quoting in this relation. And so ISKCON, the Krishna consciousness movement, is specially meant for creating an atmosphere where people can come and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So how this happens is through Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, means temple, or when we go to temple or we attend any Sankirtana party outside, when the devotees are doing, when we go participate in Sankirtana, Nagar Sankirtana, and Bhajana Kriya, that is 16 rounds of regular Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting and following the 4 regulative principles. So thereby all the anarthas in us will be like slowly, gradually reduced, and we reach to the stage of Nishtha, Ruchi, and finally we attain the stage of Bhava. So this Bhava is the preliminary state of pure love of Godhead. So in this stage, the devotee who reaches this stage of Bhava, even though Maya is present, that devotee cannot be disturbed because he is in the perfect stage of devotional service. So the healthy state means like we are not at all conditioned and we are free from material existence, and we lose interest in the bodily conception of life, like material opulence and material knowledge. We don't have much interest in those things. And we can understand who Krishna is and what Maya is. So we will be able to identify what is Maya and what, whether we are in pure Krishna consciousness serving Lord Sri Krishna. And here Prabhupada is giving an analogy, quoting a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22.31, where it is said like Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is darkness. So wherever sunshine is there, there is no darkness. That is illusion. So when we are with Krishna, we are not under the influence of Maya. So we don't have illusion. So Prabhupada is quoting that verse which says that we are in a healthy stage when we are in Krishna consciousness. So again, the same thing, the reason for avidya and ignorance, like to Krishna's name and pastimes, it perverts the ability to relish the transcendental name form. Because of that avidya, we are not able to relish the Lord's name and form. And the reason, as we again have written the same thing, Prabhu, the reason is individual reason, forgetfulness of Krishna due to attraction of Maya, and faith in false shelter, and repeated endeavor to enjoy due to ignorance. So we are always trying to enjoy materially. The leaders who are guiding the people and misguiding the people. So this is the main reason for our diseased state of life. And blind leaders, they are not at all Krishna conscious, and they are even guiding the people in the same path. And that's the reason we are never surrendering to Krishna. And we are trying to oppose the people who are trying their best to make surrender to the Supreme Lord. So all these are the results of the atheistic leadership, which is going on in the current society, as Prabhupada always mentions in many of his purports. So entire society becomes surcharged with atheistic leadership. So people become very unenthusiastic to receive Krishna consciousness. So the leader of the society, as Prabhupada always says, should be Krishna conscious. Like devotees should rule the nation. So then only the society will benefit at large. So the solution for all these problems is we should cultivate Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. And the effect of chanting Hare Krishna will relieve one from all misconceptions and destroys avidya, which is the foundation of false ego. So we have ignorance, that is the foundation of our false ego. And this is causing all the problems for the human beings. And process of cultivation, how to cultivate. First, we have to begin the chanting process with a little faith. So that is, without faith, we cannot begin this process of chanting. And then we have to associate with devotees and bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, and nishta, which is the fixed state in devotional service. And then we develop the ruchi. So ruchi is coming, it's not from the beginning. So in the beginning, we don't have ruchi. We have to start with the small, little faith in the chanting the holy names. So then we'll develop that taste as we gradually do, like on a daily basis. And as asakti, that is, we get attached to devotional service. And finally, we are reaching to the bhava, preliminary awakening of prema. So prema stage, we are reaching to in the last. So it takes some time. So we have to put our endeavor. Second, this ad will close in a few seconds. Sorry for this. So the person who is in the stage of bhava, their symptoms are they are free from material existence and they lose all interest in the bodily concepts of life, and they have clear knowledge about Supreme Lord and Maya, and they will not be disturbed by Maya at any stage in their life. So the conclusion and the practical application is like Prabhupada and our acharyas in our parampara, they have given like how to chant this holy name. So more we chant Mahamantra, the more we are fit to understand the Krishna consciousness. So everything, Prabhupada says, everything begins with tongue. So like chanting or tasting prasadam. So unless we engage our tongue in these two activities, like constant chanting and tasting Mahaprasadam, then only Krishna will reveal himself to us. So we have to control our tongue. And attentive rounds makes us more devotional during. So we have to chant our rounds so attentively. So because we can't chant throughout the day, it's not at all possible for us in this state of conditioned life. So whatever chanting we are doing, if we do attentively, then the activities which we are performing throughout the day, those activities will be more devotional because of that perfect attentive chanting which we have done during the day. So chant and hear. Prabhupada always says, don't think of anything else in the mind. We have to clearly hear what we are chanting, like the holy name when we are chanting, we need to hear to that. And Prabhupada also says regular and attentive chanting along with the four regulative principles keep us in pure state and make our life successful. And so without following the four regulative principles, even if we chant, that chanting will remain only for few days. The person can chant initially, like without following regulative principles, he may be able to chant for few days or few months, but it doesn't go throughout his life because he's not following the regulative principles. So without following regulative principles, Prabhupada says it's very hard to chant regularly and attentively. Even Bhakti Vinoda Thakur also says, like in the previous verses, we spoke about enthusiasm, confidence, patience, and giving up material association of the people, not only people like gadgets and all. So all these qualities help. We have to develop all these qualities in order we can chant perfectly. So that is our goal. So when we give up all these things, then that will finally help us in quality chanting. So we should always chant with care, attention, and respect. We should have that respect to chanting. without proper respect and proper attention, that kind of chanting is very offensive. And so when we do all this, from here only advancement happens. So inattentiveness in chanting is the reason we are not getting any prema towards the Supreme Lord. So attachment to sense objects, that leads to attachment to sense objects. If we are not getting love towards the Supreme Lord, obviously we are getting attached to sense objects, and all this is because of inattentive chanting. So, and one more thing Acharyas are telling is, we should never think that we are chanting or doing any service by our effort, like by our strength. It is simply by Lord's mercy it is coming to us. Even if we are chanting or doing any service, it's only Lord's mercy we are able to do it, and we are putting only our external endeavor to do that. So regularly spend, even after 16 rounds of chanting, Bhaktivinoda Thakura is saying, like, we should spend some time alone in a quiet place and practice concentrating on holy name, and see where we are in that process of chanting, whether our mind is thinking of Krishna or it is wandering here and there still. This is not as a part of our 16 rounds. It's after finishing our 16 rounds, Acharyas are suggesting to do this so that we can judge where we are, whether we are having little focus on the Supreme Lord or not. And chanting is very simple, but we have to practice it very seriously. And from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's class also, I took a point where if we are not constantly getting the taste of chanting, then we can read any verses like Sishtashtakam or any verses which is mentioning about the importance of holy names and what effect it gives us in progress to progress in the spiritual path. So when we read those verses or hear any lectures based on chanting or reading the Sishtashtakam verses, it helps our mind, calms our mind, and makes access to our mind to know the power of the holy name. Thereby we can develop the taste to chant our rounds attentively and with respect. So mind, as we know, it is restless, chanchala, so it keeps wandering, and so we have to repeatedly expose our mind to Krishna, and we have to forcefully make mind remind of Krishna again and again, because mind is restless and its nature is it keeps moving on from one object to another object for obtaining some pleasure. So even when we are chanting, the mind gets unlimited happiness, but want experience. Like when we are materially thinking of something, our mind, engaging our mind materially, it is not getting happiness and it moves on to the next object. So hoping for satisfaction. So that tendency mind is having. So even when we are chanting also, even though it is getting unlimited happiness, still it's wandering as a part of habit. So we have to chant regularly, attentively and carefully as prescribed by Prabhupada and our senior acharyas in our parampara, so that our diseased condition of life will be cured and will be with Krishna. I mean, thinking of Krishna constantly. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please correct any mistakes. And yesterday also in Prabhuji's lecture, Prabhuji was telling Krishna, our heart is the place where Krishna can reside. So when we are thinking of people, when somebody insults us or we are not satisfied with anything, we keep thinking of those things and we don't forgive people. So when we have all these things in our mind and our heart is occupied by all those stuff, Krishna has no place to enter and Krishna will not come to us. So we have to keep everything clear. I mean, we have to forgive people if they have done, even though they have done any aparadh to us or wrong to us. So it may be materially or spiritually, so that we are clear of our thoughts and Krishna can easily enter our heart. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. I think you did a lot of study, that is clear. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
And a very lot of good practical application points. The examples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and good. Yeah. For many people, chanting, although we know it is, it gives so much of happiness, Anandam Pradivardhanam, Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadhanam. But the experience is not there because, we are still very conditioned. So for their experience, what is, what they can perceive, we can tell, right? For example, some of the people are non-vegetarians before and they were able to control, and some of the negative qualities they have, they could see. So that is because of chanting more than anything else. Even though they're very beginning stages, those they can relate to. So we can focus on those that they can relate to more. That way they can see empirically, yes, this is correct, right? People need empirical evidence. Whenever we state, in scriptural statements, unless people have a lot of faith, it's difficult to accept intelligent at an intelligence level. We can accept at uh, at an understanding level, but we don't really accept at a ego level or intellectual level. We accept, yeah, maybe it is true, but that doesn't help much because it's not a reality for me. It's just a hope for me. Maybe in future I'll experience that sweetness and happiness. It's all good to hear, but not my experience. What's my empirical experience? That's what people really care most. So relate to what they can relate better. The habits of change of habits or the way they speak, the desire to be in satsang. These are things that can come immediately than taking longer time. The association, the friendly nature of devotees, they can perceive that. Yes, devotees are much more friendly and helpful and more honest than others. Yeah. So things that they can perceive can focus more, when we talk about the effects of chanting or effects of devotion service in general. Yeah. So when we present, see where they are, and then relate things what our true experience is, our empirical evidence is, and then what they can relate to easily. Yeah. Otherwise, this is good overall. All of you are doing better and better presentations every week. Anybody else want to add anything?
Yeah, Prabhu, I remember someone, I don't remember who, asking me, okay, you did chant, what happened? Can you share your experience? And I literally was blank.
Yeah.
Can you share with me practically what changed in you for chanting? Give me practical data.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
oh my God.
Very good point. Yeah.
So
We all
internally there
have
is
certain
changes, but how can we measure it, right? So it's not to measure, you can't measure it, right?
there's the measure is you can measure. It's not like unmeasurable. One thing that anybody can relate to is levels of anxiety will go down.
Sometimes it goes up also, Prabhu,
Because of
while chanting.
not chanting 16 rounds in time. That happens, but generally if your chanting is done early in the morning, you can see your day goes a lot more smoother because other anxieties won't really bother. That's
Anxiety goes up when it is 10 o'clock and 10 more rounds to chant.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very good point, Prabhu. What I noticed is last 4 days, Monday to Thursday, I woke up properly and chanted. Today, Friday, okay, weekend, let me get up late, let me go to bed late. And I was anxious before the presentation. I was thinking, why is my anxiety? Is it because of this presentation or I didn't chant in the morning? It could be, lot of things, it is like, it could be this, it could be that, right?
Very clearly you can see it is because of chanting. If your chanting is done early, see last 3-4 days I am also having good chanting. Today I woke up very late, almost 6 o'clock, because in the morning 1 o'clock I had to pick up somebody from airport. 1 to 3 I lost sleep, and then I woke up at 6 or 6:30 and everything is messed up. So
Are we anxious because we didn't chant, or are we anxious because of not chanting?
it affects in both ways, it affects both. Somehow you can have not just that day's chanting. Overall, I'm saying, because chanting is part of your life is less anxious because you are repeating the name of Lord, and Lord's presence is there in your life every day. That takes away a lot of material anxieties. Still, because you're chanting, that positive effect will be there. If you don't chant for a few days, you will see the difference. But I know, of course, you are all initiated, so you won't do that. But if you don't chant, you will see what I mean. Materialistic people have a lot more anxieties. You may not realize that.
That is internal. So when somebody asks, oh, give me practically what happened, like you can't, how do you measure? Like we can just say
You can
these
say
things.
you had craving for certain thing in the past. Do you have the same craving now? I used to crave for watching cricket, or whatever. Like each of us have our own issues, right? So how is it gone? How are you able to change your and another thing I could easily relate is Ekadasi day. I would never imagine myself not eating for a day, or for a half day before coming to Krishna consciousness. And it's a big botheration. My mind is not ready for it. Now I have a lot more self-control, you can say, because I'm able to do this. If I should not eat this, I have self-control, self-discipline, self-control, mind control, lack of anxiety. These are, at a material level, you can see those manifest much faster than these are, like, gross things, right? A lot of gross things are taken care. Subtle things will take time. Spiritual things will take, a lot more time unless you keep real, unless you really advance, you won't really see much change at a spiritual level. Like, are you able to perceive Krishna, right? That will take time.
So Mataji, one more thing that I heard in a lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj recently was where means as we are saying, like, means it should be measurable. But he was giving the example of Draupadi when she was getting disrobed, right? So she was getting disrobed when she called out to Krishna. It's not that Dushasana just disappeared, right? Dushasana, because of the additional sari coming in, Dushasana started pulling even harder. So that means she was tormented even harder, means when Krishna came. But so Mara says that just because we become devotees and we chant, follow regulative principles, doesn't mean that the modes of material nature will start acting on us. So it will take its own course and it will be as merciless as it is today. But Maharaj says that it's the experience of our true nature with Krishna that we get as a realization that becomes our protection. So it's not, so he says that it's not that the sari saved Draupadi, but Draupadi found protection in the realization of the grace of Krishna. So so when we think that when we become devotees, material nature will be more pleasing, and we can be much happier and we'll be controlled and things like that, that Maharaj says that is a sign of a neophyte devotee. But when we realize that irrespective of the onslaught of material nature, if we are able to find the grace of Krishna and feel protection in that, that is when we actually make advancement when we chant and things like that. So that's what Maharaj says.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhus, for sharing. So I think my question is like, so when I ask someone else, a family member or somebody, hey, can you chant? Your problems will reduce over a period of time. Like, okay, give me examples. Give me examples how your problems is reduced. Like, I mean, so there are some things, okay, internally I have shelter, all this stuff. So you're not able to explain to them with data, statistics, give me data, statistics, right? So that's what I was struggling when somebody asked me. I felt like, okay, am I even now? That question was asked a while back. But I can convincingly say chanting helps. But I can't give you like data points. Chanting helps. In my life, it has helped me this way, that way. I mean, I can share personal examples, how I feel, all these internal stuff. Yeah.
One thing I can say, at least for myself, for sure, my temperament has come down a lot compared to before KC and after KC. Maybe because we sit and chant. Definitely, my chanting is not very focused, but still, in spite of that, I can see a lot of difference from how I was few years back versus now. That's one example you can give. Practically, you can say like your friends have gone through this. And as Prabhuji mentioned, there are many things that we let go, right? I was such a coffee addict, coffee and tea. I never thought I'd be with even meat eating and stuff like that. So this chanting and association of devotees is what gave the strength to do it. Um, and also another practical example that I can think of is having expectation from others. Why some person are behaving like this to me, or why is this thing happening to me, or in relationship expectations kind of thing. It's still there within the close family, like the very nearest ones, but in an extended family, it doesn't bother any much. Like earlier when someone doesn't do this or someone doesn't follow some etiquette in the family, it used to get very agitated mentally, the way we get treated in the family and stuff like that. Those kind of expectations have gone because those are not important anymore to us. That I can see is a change. These are small practical examples that someone can relate, I guess, before they can, before and after coming in the case, that they can understand than other philosophers.
I feel that we should have a session where we kind of gather the practical things for preaching, because when we say this, okay, give me, tell me, or we should be prepared ourselves. When somebody asks, when we are going and are telling somebody chant, they'll say, okay, tell me what. So like when we say theoretically, okay, I don't know what you're speaking. You're speaking some other language. I cannot connect with you. So because people who are outside, when they're like, okay, I want to know how it will benefit me in my life, right? So I think I have to.
If we know their weak points, say for example, if somebody is suffering from anxiety or somebody is suffering from work pressure or whatever, maybe we can relate to that, saying how it helped us in that area. Then they will develop more faith, I believe. If you talk in different area where it is not at all relevant to them, they can never relate to themselves. So if we know their plus and minus or where they need help, maybe if you bring that topic, it might help.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think when somebody asks a question, whole philosophy comes up, and then they are like scared and overwhelmed. Like, okay, what is needed for them at that point of life? Only give that. Not give like a whole.
Yes. Oh, really? This works? Okay, let me talk to her. How does it help?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu, for patiently sitting and